Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning. We have the Geopointe folks on the line with Scott Hemeter, and I'm Ron Wild with Linvio. We'll be presenting location enabling for Linvio Events with Geopointe. So just to give you a little bit of background on the two products, Linvio Events is our event management package. It's 100% native, runs in the Salesforce environment, and it includes site-based registration pages that will show details about an event, allow online registration and sign up. And using the Payment Connect framework, it also collects online credit card and ACH charges for registration fees. The package supports multiple event types. We can do what we call a quick event, which is a one-page summary and registration selection page. Then we have formats that support conferences and seminars with sessions and breakouts, that type of thing. We also provide some tools for managing the event through the day of the event, such as mobile attendee check-in, event pass printing, and email delivery, and we integrate with campaigns and external mass marketing tools. So you can do email blasts to your event attendees. The Geopointe side of it, I'll let Scott speak up and talk about what the features are there, and then we'll get on with the demonstration of how these two work together. Scott?
Yeah, so Geopointe's job is to location enable Salesforce. So think of mapping your Salesforce data. It works really well just natively within Salesforce against your standard CRM data. Today we're talking about how Geopointe can be applied to work very complementary with Linvio Events. So, you're managing new sets of data that another application brings, and Geopointe can tie very well into that. And its job is really to help you do reporting as well as really applying geography to business processes. And some of the examples that Ron will go through is, planning an event. Where do you have events? Who can we invite? So when you plan an event, location is extremely relevant. And, let's get the right people to the event. We don't want to just blast everybody with an event 500 miles away from where they are. Let's just get the right people on the list and analyze the results of the event, see who's coming, and then, plan the future. So those are the use cases we'll go through, and it'll demonstrate a lot of the features that exist within Geopointe. And, I'll be here in the background kind of answering questions as we go, if there are any.
So our demonstration is a scenario that we've put together around a business that has an online presence. We have a Linvio e-store set up to sell widgets online. And in this scenario, the event manager is looking for people in a certain geographical area who have made purchases so that we can put together a user group meeting. And we'll be demonstrating that live in one of our Salesforce instances. So just to give you a little bit of a perspective on the scenario, this is the site's website. Now, I'm not sure how many are familiar with sites, but just to give a little background, Salesforce has the ability to host web pages that are written in Visualforce and Apex, and they pull data directly from your Salesforce instance, so the integration is native. Sites give you the ability to skin and to stylize the site in a wide range of ways. So we have a very basic styling on the page, but included in this site is one of our other products called Linvio eStore Lite, and we've thrown in a couple of sample widgets. So in this scenario, people come to the site, purchase some widgets, and they end up being entered directly into the system. Another advantage of the native integration is that we've gotten past a lot of the problems with duplicate registrants. If the contact is already in the database and they've purchased before or they've registered for an event, we search for them and update that record rather than creating a second one, which is kind of a nice feature. So getting back into the system here, let's say it's time to schedule the users group meeting. So in the events package, we have a WYSIWYG calendar. We can simply drag and drop to create an event. We'll put our new event on the 30th of the month, and we can use the week view to schedule the time for this users group meeting. Let's say we're going to go from 10 until 2. We'll do that. All right, and once it's been scheduled, then we can click into the event, and you'll see that this is just another Salesforce record. We use it to configure the registration process and the pages that are displayed. So there are a lot of fields here we can edit. Just call it a meeting. And the status field is used to make it visible on the web. So we'll go ahead and make it published. We want to include it in the event calendar online. And we want to set the time zone. Since we're in California today, we'll put it in Pacific. All right, now a couple of other things. We need to set a venue location. This is important when we start to do the geocoding. We can add information about the venue. This will be displayed on the registration page. and then we can pick the processor that we want to use for taking our registration fees. So we have an authorized.net processor connection that's been set up, and we'll be using our mobile devices to check people in at the event. So we want to also present the event passes online, so that once they've completed the payment, they can print that out and bring it along. We have a variety of other options here. We can collect donations if you like. We can control which fields are displayed. We could even limit the attendee registration process to those who are specifically invited to the event, or we can leave it open for the general public. Some other things like showing social media links. We can display a CAPTCHA box to prevent spam bots from entering information. We can publish sponsors, all those types of things. We need to put in a little content. This will be displayed at the top of the registration page. We've got a rich text editor here. I'm just going to cut and paste our HTML into the editor. Drop the image down just a little bit and save that. And now we've created the header for our users group registration page. And then the last thing that we need to do is set up an event fee. Let's say it's $10 to attend. We can link this to a Salesforce product if we like, which is useful for integrations, say, with an accounting package or for doing product-based reports on the revenue for each product. We can also set up payment-based workflow so that once somebody registers with this particular event fee, we can trigger a workflow event, and we use a tagging system called onPaymentCompleted tags for that. We can also control the order at which this fee shows up in the list of fees, and we can put in a little bit of a description about the fee if we want, and even a refund policy. So we'll do that, and we'll also do another fee for, since we're doing this over the lunch hour, if the users want to pay for lunch too, they can do that, and that's, let's say it's $50. So that should be the setup for the users group. We're published, we have a date and time set, we have the location, we have our payment options configured. All right, and once that's all configured, now we can go to the quick event, take a look at it, and there's all the information we just configured. So we're ready to start taking registrants. So the question is, who's going to come to this? We can do a mass emailing. We can go through a campaign, and we could send a link to this page to a list that we import, or we could be smart about the invitation process, and we could find people in the geographical area of the event and send our notifications to them. So we'll use that. We've got a map button here that's provided by Geopointe. And in the map view, we've got a really great interface that will let us take a look at all of the contacts in the database who are within a certain radius. Let's do that search first. And this gives us pins for all of the contacts that are within a 100-mile radius. We can also search based on shapes. If we wanted to draw a map, let's say we wanted to stay just within the coastal area. We can just draw a bounding map here and then do the search again. And there are the points. So these are the people that we want to invite to this event. They're within a reasonable distance of the event. We've added a Geopointe action to this that does the integration between Geopointe and our event management package. So this invite to event button, this is a custom button. We've included this in a free managed package that we can install if you guys want to use the two packages together, simplifying the integration. There we go, 38 records selected. So we get to pick the event that we're going to invite them to. In this case, the only event in the future in our database is this users group meeting. So that's pre-selected. And then we can decide what type of attendee we want to invite. In this case, they're just going to be regular attendees. Although if we were doing a conference or a seminar, we could also invite sponsors, volunteers, and exhibitors to come and register to be those participant types in the event. When we click Create, it adds attendee records to our event record. So we'll go back to Special Events. It's our users group meeting. Scroll down, and now we have all 38 of those contacts registered as invited attendees. Now they haven't actually received an invitation. This is the point at which we might be using a Blue Hornet or a vertical response to do a mass email blast and invite them. Now the attendee records have an invitation code, which is useful if we're doing an invitation-only event, or we can simply send each of these invitees a link to the registration page. Let's go back to the event. Now, if we wanted to integrate this with a campaign and do some follow-on work, we can create a new campaign here. active. And we may want to keep track of different campaign or membership statuses besides sent and responded. So let's say we also want to do registered and attended. All right, so now if we go back to our special event, we can link the two, the event with the campaign. And now we can use the events campaign linkage to move all of our attendees in as campaign members. So let's just say right now we only have invited attendees. So we'll set their status to sent, update members, and we've created 38 new campaign members in that campaign. So they're all set. We could do our mass marketing through this, send an email, or we could do the vertical response integration. And then once they've registered for the events, we can update their status and keep that in sync. So let's go ahead and do a registration for one of these contacts. Let's go back to, we can send an individual invitation for this one. It brings up an email template that we've created. We click here to RSVP, and this is what Ray Rays will see when he registers. So let's say Ray wants a lunch pass. Submit the registration. And this is where Payment Connect is employed to do the credit card charge. We'll put in a bogus card number. We're in test mode right now, so this isn't a real transaction. All right, there's the transaction summary. And if we click to the final page, then that's the event pass for that person. So let's go back into our special events and take a look at the attendee list and see what's happened here. Okay, so we used a different email address for this character, so what we're going to end up with is a different Ray Rays. And that's the one at the bottom here. He's registered, and this is the payment record for Ray. So it includes the transaction ID, the dollar amount, as well as line items for what was purchased. So we've got a lunch pass for Ray Rays, and we have a related event attendee record. So if we go back to this confirmation page, let's say that Ray prints this out. We can have mobile devices like an iPhone with a barcode scanner on it. We simply scan it. The handheld device, check this person in. Now if we go back to this attendee record, it's gone from registered to registered and now attended. That process goes on for each one of the attendees, and then let's say that it's time to do our next month's users group meeting. We can copy this event, and in this case, we'll include the fees, but not the attendees. So we have a new meeting that we're going to schedule for February 12th. Okay, so now the question is, which attendees do we want to invite to this one? We can go back to the map, and we could do another geo search, or we could actually go through our previous user group attendees. And while I was doing the demonstration, Scott was in the back setting up this filter. All right, so these are all of the attendees, and the nice thing about Geopointe is that it can be used to color code the pins based on certain field values. So our attendee record has a status field that's either invited, registered, or declined, whatnot. So this one shows us the one registered attendee that we simulated in the previous demonstration, as well as all the other invited ones. So we could select them and invite them in, or we could use different searches. Another way of approaching this is to look at what's the density of revenue across the United States. So we can take a look at the geocoded payment records. Because we had that e-store that we showed you earlier, we have transactions that have been collected from all over the United States. And so in this case, we have a handful of transactions up in Seattle and San Antonio and a bunch down in the San Diego area. We can take a look at the heat map, and then we can use that to decide where we want to do our next users group meeting. So perhaps this is of interest to us. So for this month, go into this area, and we could do a mapping from the payment object. We could go back to our attendees or our contacts in that area.
So one of the things Ron is dealing with now is with Geopointe, you'll see that row that says nearby, shape, map views, everywhere. Those are options to just decide where in the world you want to look. And so when he had it at everywhere, it searched for all contacts in the whole database. And he's quickly corrected himself to draw a shape around San Antonio here and use that as the basis. But essentially, Geopointe has what are you looking for, which in this case is contacts, and then where do you want to look? And there's a few different geographic options on isolating the location of where you're looking for data.
So that's essentially the scenario that we were going to cover in the webinar. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you on a future presentation.